The Terrifying Lies Podcast, with music and stories by Craig Nybo. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the Terrifying Lies Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Nybo. I am glad you're here. It means a lot to me that you've tuned in. I want to thank you for giving me your time. And a special thanks to those who have gone the extra mile to support the podcast. Your generosity keeps this show on the air, and I couldn't do it without you. If you want to back the podcast, head over to my Patreon and pledge just a few bucks a month. You'll find the link in the episode description. Today we dive into part 11 of our 13-part story. If you've been with us from the start, you know we're deep into an epic tale of death, rebirth, and love in outer space. If you're new, I suggest you start from the beginning. Otherwise, you might get a little lost. Way back at the start of this season, I told you that this story was one thread of a much bigger tapestry. I unraveled it for you, giving you Bieber, Twana, Mindy Lee, and their journey to play the ultimate gig in the galaxy. And now, things get a little more interesting. Today's episode introduces the Poison Nickels, a band making a cameo at the Pangalactic Prom Show. Their story, though briefly touched in this episode, is a big one. These aliens fought their way through trials and danger, and they deserved their moment on the stage. Maybe one day I'll tell you their full tale, Poison Nickels across the universe, in a future season of Terrifying Lies. But enough talk. Let's jump in. I'll meet you on the other side. This is Rock and Roll and Resurrection, Bieber's Finger, Part 11 of 13. Slink stood up from the back of his enormous desk. He looked the little group over, exploring their expressions, trying to ascertain their motivation. He spotted Azrael, unconscious, lying on the floor in a graceless position, her 8 tentacles bound with zip ties. Azrael made a point of keeping herself together, of looking her absolute best all the time. To see her in this state seemed wrong.
I admire your tenacity,
Slink said. He pushed a button on his desk and held it down.
Security. Can I have someone sent to my office right away?
Twana reached to her chest and grabbed the little lipstick case filled with formaldehyde and with Bieber's finger, the piece of macabre jewelry she always wore, the case she had only parted with once so Orlando DePecchio's genetic biologists could take a sample for cloning. She pulled it free, breaking the chain. She held it towards Slink. He flicked it a casual glance, then shrugged his shoulders, or what Twana thought might be shoulders. Twana tossed the lipstick case across the penthouse suite. It spun in the air, its chain flailing as it made its flight across the room. It skittered down on Slink's desk. He recoiled, but when nothing happened, no explosion, no release of gas, he gradually regained his composure. He reached out with one tentacle and picked up the lipstick case. He held it into the light and, with another of his 8 tentacles, pulled his sunglasses down and looked over the dark frames. Bieber's finger hadn't decomposed. It remained in stasis, crammed into the lipstick case, surrounded by a wash of formaldehyde, still half burned to char from Brennan Nix's car bombing.
Interesting,
Slink said, dangling the lipstick case in front of him, turning it this way and that, trying to understand why a teenage girl would be carrying a severed finger around as a piece of jewelry.
Based on the empire you have built here,
Twana said, stepping deeper into Slink's penthouse office.
You have no doubt had to step on a few necks on your way to the top. So I'm not gonna pussyfoot around.
Slink fixed Twana with a sideways glance. Butch raised a hand to try to stop her, second-guessed himself. Twana had proved herself in DePecchio's office, and at this point, the 4 of them didn't have anything more to lose, so he let her take the floor.
The explosion that took Bieber's life was not only heard on Earth, but across the galaxy. I know because I was there. What you hold in your hand is a souvenir from that blast.
Slink's eyes came unhinged, became dark discs.
I caught Bieber's finger like a piece of parade candy.
Twana moved in even closer.
I, being a superfan and all, couldn't just let such a prize go. so I threw it in my pocket and went my merry way.
You are a compelling young lady,
Slink said, the bottom of his two mouths cracking into a smile.
You haven't heard the half of it, Mr. Errolhart, and if you call off your hounds, I'm prepared to give you an opportunity that would put the Collindrome on the front pages of every paper and trade rag in the known universe.
Slink considered her offer for an introspective moment. He looked at the finger, penduluming back and forth on its delicate gold chain. He pushed the call button on his desk.
Belay that order, security, but stand by.
A voice came back over his desk PA speaker, acknowledging his request.
Now,
Slink said.
why don't you tell me a nice bedtime story? And let's try sticking to the facts.
I assure you,
Twana said.
we have never tried to deceive you. Everything we said to your poor receptionist over there
Twana thumbed over her shoulder toward Azrael.
was nothing but pure fact.
Slink nodded and folded a couple of pairs of tentacles over his chest. Twana went on.
My brother, the one who's handy with a toilet plunger handle, works in an industry that runs in a parallel circle with yours. His boss on Earth goes by the name Orlando DiPeccio.
I don't know the name.
Slink said.
Doesn't surprise me, but you do know the cost of running the type of business DiPeccio runs. I'm not going to be coy. DiPeccio is into all kinds of ludicrous ventures, including illegal substances, racketeering, loan sharking, and prostitution. You name it.
I run a clean business, miss. I'm on the up and up. And if you intend to soil my sparkling record with cardboard accusations, I'll have your fingers just like this one around my neck.
Slink held up Bieber's finger.
I didn't come here to tarnish your record. I'm sure on the books you're clean. And so is DiPeccio. Or should I say, so was DiPeccio.
Slink backed down.
Amidst DiPeccio's ventures, lately, he's dabbled in the unauthorized cloning business.
Slink raised an eyebrow.
It seems, if one has the resources, he can live forever by soliciting DiPeccio's services. Let's say you have cancer and you know you're on your way out. Hypothetically, you can call a guy like DiPeccio, pay him a great deal of money, give him a genetic sample, and within just a couple of weeks, his biologist can print a clone, brand spanking new. This in itself is illegal enough, but DiPeccio's neurologists have also created their own memory download servers. For all intents and purposes, your memories are you. Memories can be uploaded into a clone's brain. This, of course, stirs up all kinds of arguments that are both spiritual and legal in nature.
I must get to know this DiPeccio.
You would be instant friends, I'm sure.
Slink laughed. He leaned against his desk and allowed easy smiles to unfold on his face.
What you see here
Twana gestured toward Bieber.
is an exact clone of Bieber, taken from the sample you hold in your hand. He has every likeness, every mole, every birthmark, every hair follicle.
Twana turned to Bieber.
Why don't you show Mr. Arrowheart the legitimacy of my argument?
Bieber held up his left hand and revealed the heart-shaped birthmark on his ring finger. Slink compared the birthmark on the clone with the one on the severed finger. They were identical. He nodded and tapped the tip of one of his tentacles on his desktop.
He is not an impersonator.
Twana said.
Standing before you in your office is the real Bieber.
And his memories?
Slink asked, holding up the finger.
That's the good part.
Twana said, a sly smile escaping to her face.
He has not been implanted with Bieber's actual memories. He's been trained to become Bieber by me and by his second greatest fan.
Twana pointed at Mindy Lee. Mindy Lee raised a hand and flicked off a cute little wave.
This Bieber comes with all of the showmanship, prance, and dance, and none of the prima donna baggage.
Prove it.
Slink said. Twana turned to Mindy Lee.
Indulge us, if you will.
Mindy Lee took a portable stereo out of her purse and pushed the play button. Bieber stepped to the middle of the penthouse as the opening refrains of Stand filled the air. He collapsed to one knee and took the same opening position he had used during the Intertran talent show. He undulated his body to the beat. When the opening verse came up, he popped to his feet in a graceful jounce and sang, emulating every nuance of the music. punching the backbeats, accurately nailing each vocal run just like the real Bieber. Slink sunk into his chair, shaking his head and smiling. His smiles turned to laughs. He began to flick his tentacles along, cracking them like whips to the beat. Tawana let Bieber perform through the first chorus, then gestured for Mindy Lee to stop the audio. Bieber belted out a final note over silence, then settled out of performance mode and rejoined Mindy Lee and Butch. Mindy Lee pushed up to her toes and gave Bieber a little kiss on the cheek, whispering something reassuring into his ear.
Now, to my proposition,
Tawana said.
For some reason unknown to us, we've fallen out of favor with DiPescio. He even attempted to have us assassinated during our flight to your lavish establishment. I don't know why in his right mind he would want to destroy his biggest asset. I suspect that someone has broken his illegal cloning racket wide open. He's trying to shred the evidence, so to speak. These circumstances have created an opportunity for somebody with means, and that somebody could be you.
What do you propose?
Slink said, folding the tips of his tentacles and letting them lie on the desk.
I think we, you, me, and Orlando DiPescio, that is, can reach an arrangement. I know the Colindrome is always under investigation, especially with controversies that arise almost yearly at a pan-galactic prom show. I also know that you are no idiot. It wouldn't surprise me if you personally orchestrate the chaos just to reap the publicity. My guess is that you retain the best public relations team in the galaxy.
Well, a Slorak in my position has to keep his bases covered.
Here's my proposition. You have a bomb on your hands. You have the ability to raise a shroud from the biggest publicity stunt of all time. What better way would there be for Bieber to launch his career even further into the stratosphere than to fake his death and send his fans into mourning? Then, just as millions of teenage girls give up hope, he plays a glorious resurrection performance at the biggest event in the universe, the Pan-Galactic Prom Show.
They would never buy it.
Slink said.
Are you kidding?
Tawana said.
After what your public relations team has done for you in the past, I'm sure they can see to the details. To Brandon Nix, to the explosion, even to the fabricated human tissue found in the car bombing. The whole thing was a hoax, you see, orchestrated by Bieber's promoters to celebrate Earth's inaugural prom show performance on your stage. Besides, they will buy it because they want to buy it. They crave Bieber. A few details are not going to get in the way of megatons of teenage lust and idol worship.
Interesting. What about DiPescio?
Slink asked.
Compared to you, DiPescio's small potatoes. All he wants is money, and you have plenty. It's a matter of merely spooning off some of the top. Put 100 million credits into his protected accounts, and he'll go away.
That's a lot of scratch, girl.
Slink said, lowering his dark lenses a bit and looking straight at her.
Compared to what you will make in booking Bieber's continuing engagements and in his upcoming albums, it's chicken scratch.
And what's in it for you?
That's the easy part. I only want 3 conditions. 1, ensure the safety of my ma back on Earth. 2, Mindy Lee, Butch, and I get 2% of Bieber's gross sales for his tour receipts and for the rest of his studio albums. 3, Mindy Lee and I get unlimited access to Bieber, and we get to be his ongoing personal coaches.
Mindy Lee issued a little squeal and clapped her hands. Slink tapped the side of his head with one of his meandering members. He leaned back in his chair and looked up at the ceiling, taking a moment to think. A long, awkward moment passed. Tawana resisted the urge to fill the moment with more chatter.
Is he ready to perform a 90-minute set plus encore?
Slink asked.
He was born ready.
Then I think we have a deal.
Slink stood, sloshed around the edge of his desk. He reached one tentacle out to Tawana. She took it and shook, resisting the temptation to wince in disgust. As Slink shook her hand, he extended 3 more of his tentacles and placed them on the shoulders of Mindy Lee, who did wince in disgust,
Ew.
Butch, and Bieber.
You're a spunky one, I'll give you that. You have tenacity.
Slink said to Tawana.
I don't need to remind you of the consequences of sharing any of this with the press, or of trying to renegotiate the particulars of our agreement, do I?
We are clear.
Twana said, releasing Slink's slimy tentacle. Slink turned to Bieber.
You, my friend, are going to be famous. As they say, my boy, have a cigar. You're gonna go far.
Slink turned to Twana and Mindy Lee.
Please deliver Bieber to his special green room for tomorrow's show, no later than 3 in the afternoon. I'll send the details to your room. I'll have a discreet team standing by to prep him for his biggest performance ever.
You know where we're staying?
Mindy Lee asked.
Oh, little princess. I make it a point of knowing where all of my guests are staying.
And what about Funk Toast?
Butch asked.
I don't worry about them. They're a bunch of no-account musical hacks. I had a 2-header show, now I have a 3-header. The Poison Nickels, Funk Toast, and the great and mighty Bieber, the smash sensation from planet Earth.
Slink laughed, long and slow, as he escorted the 4 of them toward the penthouse elevators. Somewhere in the background, Azrael moaned as she began her ascent from the depths of unconsciousness. Showtime in the Grand Hall Arena, somewhere in the Colindrome asteroid city. Twana had read about the pan-galactic prom show's over-the-top dazzle. She'd seen pictures of the enthusiastic crowd, sometimes of brawls kicked up, and security having to come down hard. She'd heard about the insane partying. The prom show made the headlines nearly every year with some form of controversy. Audience members trampled, intergalactic treaties breached by rival alien races, illegal substance and information stings. But as she looked around the Grand Hall Arena at every imaginable creature from all corners of the universe, dressed for action of some form or other, she realized that what she had read and heard didn't even come close to the intensity of actually being there. Slink had insisted that she take her brother, Mindy Lee, and Bieber right down onto the dance floor for the opening acts.
It is better
Slink had postured.
for your Bieber copy to hide in plain sight.
Twana had her misgivings about Slink's plan. She made certain that Bieber donned his hat, sunglasses, and scarf. But now, looking over the crowd, she suspected that Bieber could have worn his flashy stage outfit and stood right in the middle of the audience with no fear of being recognized. A playlist of mood music laid the undercurrent of the crowd murmur as the 4 of them stood amidst hundreds of alien races. A handful of rhino-like creatures dressed in silver and gold chrome stood nearby, conversing in grunting language. Twana thought they sounded pissed off at each other. She supposed, in their own way, they were just as excited about the show as any other creature. A gaggle of teenage girls wore black t-shirts with various slogans mourning the loss of Bieber, their fallen love. The girls had taken to wearing black lipstick and nail polish as part of their statement. Twana had made certain to steer clear of that faction. The mood music faded out just before Slink Arrowheart sloshed out onto the stage from the wings. The crowd exploded into a mixture of applause, shouts, shrieks, cries, slaps, chortles, and profanity, welcoming the Colindrome proprietor into the limelight. Slink calmed the crowd by raising 4 of his tentacles. Once the crowd's cacophony had ebbed off, he stepped up to the microphone stand and cleared his throats. Other than a few newly proclaimed Poison Nickels fans who gathered along the skirts of the stage, most of the crowd stood in awe, wondering exactly how the handful of stink bugs had landed the opening slot at the galaxy's biggest show. Twana, Mindy Lee, Butch, and Bieber looked at each other, wincing as the obscure band thunked out a sensory-offensive series of shrieks and rhythm. Twana supposed that somewhere in the universe the Poison Nickels noise must qualify as music, but judging by the overwhelming majority of the crowd's response, she felt she could safely chalk it up as noise. The Poison Nickels sounded to her like a combination of hyenas mating and a dozen blacksmiths making horseshoes. Just as Twana turned to the others to suggest that now would be a good time to take a potty break to keep her ears from blowing out, A gigantic screen behind the stage exploded into a wash of color and imagery. A story unfolded on the screen, depicting the Poison Nickels as a war-bedraggled race on a faraway planet. An intralingual translation machine told their story in English. The Poison Nickels had come on a peace mission, a sort of public relations tour to find help for their dying species. Twana supposed that, with respect to the narrative on the screen behind the band, the music had its place, as ghastly as it sounded. The pan-galactic prom show crowd seemed split on the issue. Many embraced the Poison Nickels, having sympathy for their story. They cheered and applauded, showing their support with enthusiasm. But others just couldn't tolerate the Nickels' avant-garde sound. They covered their ears. Some pointed and laughed at the Poison Nickels, cracking jokes in their various languages. Some out and out left, filling the foyer with their shapes, sounds, and smells. If nothing else, the Poison Nickels came off as sincere, but sincerity alone couldn't win over the entire crowd. The tragedy of their message, as compelling as it was, just didn't seem to play well at a party. The Funk Toast Band would have to work hard to rescue the audience. Twana caught a glimpse of Slink Arrowheart in the wings, covering his ears and shaking his head. Even the Colindrome proprietor understood the damage the Poison Nickels were inflicting on his crowd's enthusiasm. Finally, the Poison Nickels wrapped up their set. They raised their pincers, hoping for an enthusiastic show of crowd appreciation. To Twana's surprise, the crowd roared, stomping their feet, shouting, making any kind of noise they could. The group of newly dubbed Nickels fans at the base of the stage, darkly dressed aliens from an obscure planet, showed their acclamation by slapping themselves across their backs with wide straps and moaning out their pain in gulps and fits of appreciation. Somehow, the Poison Nickels had pulled it off. As the Poison Nickels left the stage, Slink Arrowheart came out of the wings, forced smiles painted on his unwilling face. He moved to the microphone and began his introduction of the Funk Toast Band.
When I saw you standing there underneath the neon glare, something in the air felt different, like the universe had listened. Every star in the sky aligned, like a map to your heart and mind. Gravity pulls me closer to you. Nothing in this world can undo. You and me, cosmic fate. Love like ours won't hesitate. Across the galaxies, across the stars. No matter where, I'll be where you are. You and me, we shine so bright, burning like a satellite. Distant hearts don't need to wait. You and me, we're cosmic fate. Every time you take my hand, feels like time just turns to sand. Falling fast, but I'm not scared. Love like this is all. Every star in the sky alight, like a map to your heart and mind. Gravity pulls me closer to you. Nothing in this world we can't undo. You and me, we're cosmic fate. Love like ours won't hesitate. Across the galaxies, across the stars. No matter where, I'll be where you are.
Every boy band album needs a hit ballad. I'll admit, romantic drama isn't my strong suit. But I took a swing at it with this song. You and Me, We're Cosmic Fate, is my best attempt at capturing love that stretches beyond the stars. I hope you liked it. Thanks again for joining me. I hope life treats you well. I wish you peace and happiness and maybe a little thrill along the way. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a moment to leave a positive review wherever you listen. It helps way more than you think. Until next time, I bid you sweet dreams. Or should I say, sweet nightmares. This has been the Terrifying Lies Podcast. Please, come again. You're welcome here.